Welcome to Pasadena Monthly. I'm your host, Justin Chapman. After taking a look at what's been going on in Pasadena this past month, we'll speak with our guest, Daniel Rossman, the new Executive Director of the One Arroyo Foundation. But before we get started, let's check out these Pasadena Media News Briefs.
Earlier this month, KBLA Talk 1580 introduced Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, a new one-hour weekly program hosted by award-winning journalist and filmmaker James Farr, dedicated to tracking Altadena's recovery, amplifying survivor voices, and holding leaders accountable. The show serves as a vital platform for the community in the wake of the Eaton Fire. The program airs live each week and will be rebroadcast Sundays at noon Pacific Time. For Farr, the Eaton Fire is deeply personal. Living on the border of Altadena, he and his family were fortunate to escape the devastation, but many friends and neighbors lost everything. A longtime contributor to KBLA's morning show, First Things First, with Dominique DePrima, Farr has consistently provided critical insights into issues affecting Black communities. Immediately after the fire, Farr co-produced KBLA's 3-hour live remote broadcast from the impact zone, ensuring survivors' voices were heard. Now, as the host of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, he continues that commitment, investigating the fire's causes, tracking rebuilding efforts, and keeping Altadena's recovery in the national spotlight. For more information, visit kbla1580.com. Pasadena Media presents a special Arroyo Now series, Rise from the Ashes, focusing on the businesses, individuals, and heroes who have directly and indirectly been affected by and/or have responded to the Eaton Fire. This series sheds light on the impact of the fire and highlights the resilience of the Altadena and Pasadena communities in the face of adversity. The Eaton Fire left lasting effects on residents, business owners, and first responders. Through personal stories and in-depth conversations, Rise from the Ashes provides a platform for those affected to share their experiences, reflections, and the challenges they faced in the aftermath. To preserve these important stories, Pasadena Media is offering one-hour Tell Your Story filming sessions open to anyone who wishes to share their personal account of the Eaton Fire. Selected recordings will be featured in the Arroyo Now series, ensuring these first-hand experiences reach a broader audience. Additionally, all recorded stories will be archived as part of a partnership with the Pasadena Museum of History. This initiative ensures that future generations will have access to authentic, first-hand narratives from those who lived through or were impacted by the fire, preserving these voices as a vital part of Pasadena's history. For more information, email studio@pasadenamedia.org.
Let's turn next to our lightning round of news updates. 1. CAL FIRE, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, has released updated fire hazard maps for Southern California counties. The maps have expanded areas classified as high and very high risk zones. It was the first update in more than 14 years and will have implications for Altadenans and Pasadenans as they go through the rebuilding process because properties in those areas are subject to stricter building codes and more stringent regulations, including requirements for fire-resistant roofs, tempered windows, ember-resistant vents, and 100 feet of defensible space around structures. The maps give a rough idea of where wildfires are most likely to occur over the course of the next 30 to 50 years. County officials said the updated maps would not impede the permitting process for those looking to rebuild. 2. The City of Pasadena, the Pasadena Unified School District, LA County, and about 130 other plaintiffs have filed lawsuits against Southern California Edison seeking compensation for extensive damage to infrastructure and property from the Eaton Fire. SCE transmission towers are suspected of initially sparking the deadly, devastating blaze. The city's complaint said, quote, "There is clear evidence from video footage, photographs, and witness statements that the fire was caused by Edison's equipment." LA County's complaint said that SCE deliberately prioritized profits over safety, despite knowing of the extreme fire risk its equipment posed during the exceptionally strong windstorm. This month, SCE and investigators began physically inspecting that equipment in Eaton Canyon for clues. SCE is looking into whether a zombie power line, one that is no longer energized, became energized before the fire. The LA Times reported that some of that equipment was flagged as a fire hazard before the fire and was overdue for maintenance. Calls are growing for power lines to be put underground, but it's a slow and costly process. SCE has limited targeted undergrounding projects in Altadena, about 1.3 miles in high fire risk areas, but according to Altadena Town Council Chair Victoria Knapp, SCE has been reluctant to discuss additional undergrounding, including where the towers are. 3. Pasadena approved a memorandum of understanding with LA County for fire debris removal, which is currently underway by the Army Corps of Engineers. The deadline to opt in or out of the debris removal program is March 31st. The city has implemented a comprehensive fire recovery plan to help residents rebuild after the fire, with dedicated staff planners assigned to each property that was damaged. In Pasadena, 185 structures were destroyed in Districts 1 and 4. 4. A new support group called the Eaton Fire Collaborative has been established, consisting of key stakeholders including San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity, the Pasadena Educational Foundation, the Pasadena Police Department, My Tribe Rise, the Tournament of Roses, PUSD, the City of Pasadena, and about 80 other community groups, nonprofits, and city, county, and state officials. The goal of the group is to ensure a coordinated, effective, community-driven approach to the recovery effort in a way that honors the beauty, resilience, and integrity of Altadena and Pasadena. Learn more at eatonfirecollaborative.org. 5. The council voted to direct city staff to draft an ordinance that will provide 6-month eviction protections for renters impacted by the Eaton Fire, shorter than the city's rental housing board's recommendation of 1 year. The council also directed staff to return within 30 days with options for providing rental assistance to affected residents. 6. The city's Reconnecting Communities 710 Advisory Group met again this month for the first time since November. Dr. Paul Ong from UCLA's Center for Neighborhood Knowledge gave a presentation on how freeway construction and urban renewal projects contributed to racial and economic polarization in Pasadena from the 1950s to 80s. 710 Senior Project Manager Wendy Macias presented an updated project calendar and said that the project remains on track as it transitions from the creative analysis phase to the options and engagement phase. A community workshop on the 710 is set for Saturday, April 12th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Pasadena Convention Center in room 107. The workshop will introduce historical project findings, restorative justice work, and master plan concepts from the consultant, Perkins Eastman. 7. The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California will receive an increased water allocation of 35% from the State Department of Water Resources this year, meaning MWD has sufficient supply to meet all member agency demands in 2025 and can add to the existing 3.4 million acre-feet of water already in storage. Pasadena imports about 60% of its water from MWD. Also, Pasadena Water and Power is pursuing a federal loan of nearly $104 million to finance 3 major water infrastructure projects aimed at modernizing the city's aging water system, including replacing the 130-year-old reservoirs at the Sunset Complex, installing advanced water meters across the city, and replacing about 11 miles of aging water mains. 8. Mike Sontag, a director at E3, the energy consulting firm, reported to the Council's Municipal Services Committee that transmission limitations and the current state of renewable technology might make completely replacing the city's Glenarm power plant with carbon-free alternatives technically infeasible by 2030, as mandated by Council. E3 instead proposed a compromise approach they called Mitigate Glenarm, keeping the plant as an emergency backup while building enough renewables to avoid running it except during rare emergency events. E3 has completed the first phase of the optimized strategic plan, which included studies to identify supply and demand side resource options, and has launched the second phase, which includes exploring different resource combinations to determine the best strategies for meeting the city's future energy needs. Council members requested more frequent check-ins on the optimized strategic plan and a conversation about increasing local solar generation. 9. The Council's Economic Development and Technology Committee approved significant fee reductions for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in an effort to encourage ADU production and increase housing options in Pasadena while preserving the character of residential neighborhoods. With thousands of people losing their homes in the fire, new local housing is needed now more than ever. And 10. The PUSD School Board approved the elimination of about 151 full-time equivalent positions for the 2025 to 26 school year. Superintendent Dr. Elizabeth Blanco said the move was a necessary step that the district has to take for the district's future fiscal health. The district is currently projecting operating deficits of nearly $40 million for 2024 to 25 and $29.5 million for 2025 to 26, with a small surplus in 2026 to 27 because of fire-related insurance revenues. Let's welcome our guest, Daniel Rossman, the new Executive Director of the One Arroyo Foundation. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Daniel served as chair of the City of Pasadena's Environmental Advisory Commission and currently serves as Pasadena's appointee to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Advisory Committee. He helped spearhead the establishment and expansion of the San Gabriel Mountains National Monument, which preserved over 452,000 acres of public lands. So Daniel, tell us about your career before One Arroyo and your work on the National Monument.
Sure. So I've worked for a number of nonprofits, mostly in environmental conservation. Most notably, the last 16 years of my career were spent here working with an organization called the Wilderness Society to protect public lands across the state of California. Perhaps the biggest feather in my cap, or something that's most close to my heart, is the effort to protect the San Gabriel Mountains as a national monument. So I worked in coalition with a group of folks who advocated for the establishment under President Obama, and later expanded with President Biden, preserving over 450,000 acres of public lands.
Is that at risk now under the Trump administration of being rescinded at all?
So in the first Trump administration, he attempted to roll back some previous designations. Those efforts were challenged in the courts, and it's largely contended that the president doesn't have the authority to de-designate lands that have been protected. But we should anticipate this administration trying to overstep their authority and attack those protections. I feel like the San Gabriels have been incredibly well supported, and I don't know of any specific attacks on that designation. But what's been amazing is that even the early skeptics of those protections have turned around and been some of the biggest supporters for the later expansion of the national monument.
Well, something to keep an eye on for sure. So for those who may be unfamiliar, what is One Arroyo? What's its mission, and why did you want to join the organization?
Sure. So One Arroyo Foundation works to preserve, protect, and celebrate the Arroyo Seco right here in Pasadena. I joke that I couldn't get closer to home unless I started a foundation for my own houseplants. Like, this is our backyard. And it's an incredible regional park that provides a range of experiences for young kids to enjoy the park views along their strollers in the lower Arroyo Seco, for folks to toss a disc at the first Frisbee disc golf course in the country, to enjoy the sights and sounds of a game at the Rose Bowl Stadium. Each of these areas, the lower Arroyo, the central Arroyo, and the northern Arroyo, offer really incredibly unique values. And someone coming from a conservation background, I also know that this is an incredible habitat corridor, a really incredible natural space that even President Roosevelt back in the early 1900s said this is an incredible national park and natural park and should be protected. So the opportunity came up to help protect this wonderful place right here in our backyard, and I jumped at the chance.
And one of its main projects or signature projects so far has been the Trails Improvement Project. What's the status of that?
Yeah, so the One Arroyo linkage project was selected as this project to really demonstrate what the organization could do. And in December, we celebrated a ribbon cutting with the mayor and other local officials who helped get this over the finish line with community members. And the linkage has provided incredible improvements to the trails. You can come out and experience them both in the lower and upper Arroyo. And it's been really incredible to come onto an organization right as we've completed this incredible demonstration project.
So it's completely finished at this point?
So phase one is complete. The next phase, we're looking ahead to improving an area centered around the Mayberry Parker Bridge. So many folks don't know that the Colorado Street Bridge has a bridge underneath it that we're looking to open to pedestrian use to allow another loop trail, as well as improving access to cross the street and link up to the central Arroyo from the lower Arroyo.
For pedestrians, right? Not for
pedestrians, yeah, exactly.
Traffic, right?
Yep.
And what we had John Onderdonk and Rick Gould from One Arroyo, longtime members, on the show last summer, and they talked about that bridge project starting potentially in spring 2025. Is that still on track?
Yeah, it looks to be on track. We're completing the initial environmental review, and are optimistic that we'll start to see some shovels in the ground this year.
Great. And the Trails project, is it now, I remember the original vision was it's one trail that's going to connect all three sections of the Arroyo. Does that exist as is today?
That's still the vision. I mean, this phase 2 is a critical
Mhm.
part of that. And I should note, even beyond the trail linkage projects, we have a number of projects. If you look at the original Arroyo Seco plans that have, been put together with incredible community input,
Mhm.
that's a list totaling $117 million worth
Right.
of projects,
Right.
probably even more in today's
Mhm.
dollars. So what we did towards the end of last year was do some community engagement and surveys, got over 500 respondents to help us prioritize an even shorter list to tackle next. And those includes continuing on the trail linkage work. We're also looking at rehabilitating an old overlook of the Arroyo, a historic overlook named after Emily Dickinson, who had a historic gift to the city to establish it. And then, even more ambitious projects like the amphitheater in Brookside Park over behind Kids Space
Mhm.
in that area to rehabilitate that area that's made with river rocks and is a really great spot. So I am looking forward to not only completing these efforts to link the trails, but moving on to a new
Mhm.
suite of projects
Yeah.
towards that very long-term, ambitious
Mhm.
$117 million list.
What are some of the other, maybe not necessarily near-term projects, but what are some of the next ones that One Arroyo would like to pursue?
Yeah, so mentioning first on the docket is this Mayberry Parker
Mhm.
Bridge, but uh, improvements, maybe helping provide a reroute that would provide continuous access during even Rose Bowl events,
Mhm.
moving the trail to the west side, looking at opportunities to rehabilitate the amphitheater. And the other piece that I'm excited about is we've recently launched a membership program. And so this is a way to engage with community and provide membership events. We launched our, first event a couple of weeks ago with a hike in the Arroyo and had a really great turnout, and folks were just thrilled to be out there, learn a little bit more about our projects, as well as have this opportunity to connect to neighbors. I think what has been a really important reminder to me is that the Arroyo serves as this place where we can not only connect to nature, but also connect to each other as a community. And anytime you have a spot that allows us to come together and connect, regardless of your background, it's a great opportunity to uh, treasure that resource and
Mhm.
really work to preserve that opportunity for all Pasadenans.
And you're replacing Cynthia Kurtz, so huge shoes to fill, obviously. So what's your vision long term? How do you see growing the organization over time? Is it a permanent or long term organization that's going to be there, or is it going to be one that knocks out a number of these projects and then lets the city take it from there?
Cynthia Kurtz served as our interim executive director, and one of her goals was to find the next full-time permanent executive director. And I was honored to be selected. She's someone who I had reached out to for career advice because I admire what she's done so much.
Yeah.
And I actually had reached out to her, not knowing that she was on the hunt for this position. And she said, "Hey, do you know anyone that's looking for this? Funny you should ask." So it was a great sort of feeling of kismet.
Hmm.
Our organization is at this opportunity to really grow. But going back, even before we established One Arroyo, there was a commission put together by Bill Bogart and Don Hahn to really look at, this is not a unique problem here in Pasadena. We've got parks that have infrastructure that's over 100 years old. We have climate change exacerbating impacts to extreme weather events and harsh
Yeah.
climate conditions. We have a growing population that's putting even more pressure on our public parks, not only here but across the country. And one of the places that these folks looked at was Central Park in New York, and they established a Central Park Conservancy. And so, like that, a park foundation really is an organization that helps meet that gap between what the city's able to do with their existing revenue and what support from public and local supporters in this public-private partnership can do to really enhance the vision beyond what the city could do alone.
Right. Let's talk fire prevention. Everyone's talking about it, obviously. CAL FIRE released these new fire risk maps, and I believe much, if not all of the Arroyo, certainly all of West Pasadena is now in the very high and high fire risk zone. You know, there's a large and growing contingent of residents who want the city to remove all brush and all dead branches and all kindling fuel, and then another large contingent that believes the Arroyo should remain natural. Where does One Arroyo stand on that? How do we strike the right balance there?
So, you know, one of the things I think I've been surprised by in the conversation is I was initially worried that folks were going to go to their extreme corners and take a, you know, only wild, no intervention, or we've got to get rid of it all and it's just got to be a giant concrete channel. But folks, I think by and large agree that we need to both preserve the natural resources and ensure that it's resilient to fire in ways that protect life and property and the resource itself. If we have a burnt arroyo, it's not really preserving nature. And what has been interesting is in these conversations, there are a lot of things that enhance nature-based solutions. So looking at restoring some of the native plant vegetation like oaks have been these windscreens that can catch embers and prevent further spread compared to something like a non-native eucalyptus that burns very rapidly and drops a lot of limbs. And so I think that there is an opportunity to look long-term at some habitat rehabilitation. And, you know, our role in this conversation is to be a resource for the city should they want to go after funds that the city couldn't get themselves, but maybe that's private donations, maybe that's foundations or grants that we can apply to on behalf of the city, but really looking for the city to work in partnership with the community and the range of stakeholders to identify what are the best opportunities to improve the resilience of this incredible resource.
Great. Well, yeah, I know the city looks forward to working with One Arroyo and all the neighbors and organizations. I mean, there's so many stakeholders in the Arroyo and so many different uses and agreements and plans, and it's such a complex situation. But for a resource that's beloved by everybody, so you know, everybody has to be part of that conversation. You had mentioned the membership program. How else can residents get involved, support One Arroyo's mission, help shape the vision going forward?
Yeah, so I would encourage folks to check out our website. onearroyo.org is a great place to learn more about the organization, to sign up for our newsletter, or to become a inaugural member for the Friends of the Arroyo, which is a great opportunity to stay engaged and come out and participate in events. And we look forward to putting up updates when we see projects move forward. And, you know, we work closely with the city, which will also put out updates, but want folks to know all about the great work that's soon to come on the Mayberry Parker Bridge and other places to be seen.
Great. And are there any events coming up in the near future, or is that to be determined?
I've got some things in the work, not ready to announce just yet.
Great. Well, Daniel, congratulations on the position. We're so happy to have you here and being part of this great organization. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Before we go, here's this month in Pasadena history. It was this month in 1993 when Pasadena voters decided to change the name of the city's governing body from the Board of City Directors to the City Council. On the March 9th, 1993 ballot, more than 2/3 of voters, nearly 68%, supported the name change posed by Proposition 1. The council members had already been informally calling themselves council members since 1991, but a general election was required to formalize the name change. And in April 1993, that name change became official. Voters also approved changing the titles, chairman to mayor, vice chairman to vice mayor, and director to council member. Because they were called directors, then director and current council member Rick Cole said in an April 1991 LA Times story that people thought the title director meant he was the city manager. He, of course, went on to serve as city manager for the cities of Azusa, Ventura, and Santa Monica. Another interesting side note, on the same 1993 ballot, a proposal to implement council term limits was rejected, which is how it remained until, of course, 2024 when voters approved term limits. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Pasadena Monthly. Tune in every fourth Friday of the month at 5 p.m. Learn more at pasadenamedia.org and justindouglaschapman.com. Drop me a line at jchapman@cityofpasadena.net. We'll see you next time.